Good morning, everybody. Well, it's time to get busy here on another day. The guys are on it quick. It's 8 o'clock and the hammers are swinging. And let's check this out. So they're knocking all the formwork off and getting ready to strip this one down. I tell you what, that OSB, I guess you call it plywood, but strand board, oriented strand board is what that's called. OSB, oriented strand board. And there's different qualities of it. And let me tell you, that was some lousy quality. We're using it, but make use of it. And it saved me a lot of money up here, but it was risky. It was risky. I don't know if it was worth the risk, especially if it wasn't for the fact we were having a El Nino and it was mega dry. Because if it had took any rains, it would have just fell apart before we even poured concrete. Or if we would have poured concrete on it, it may have just caved through. Yesterday they were, this is its second use right here on what he's doing. And when they were filling up the forms, the water was literally coming straight through the OSB. You can see everywhere they poured because the water was leaking right through the wood itself. Not through a nail hole, right through the wood. It was just, you can see that it was just saturating. Again, you might see us using it here, and we got lucky, but I do not recommend it at all. Not for this that we found here in the Philippines. Now, back in the States, I bought some really good oriented strand board, and it felt like it had a coating on the outside. It was kind of like waxy like, and you could see it. You could see the sheen to it. This didn't have that sheen to it. It was real dry looking. So I'm sure there's different qualities. And also what kind of wood's it made out of. A lot of your good OSBs made from shredded up varieties of hardwoods, but this may not be from hardwoods. This may just be from some soft stuff like pines or spruce that's been shredded up, and that also will make a huge difference. What kind of glue did they use when they compressed it all, and they have a glue substance in between in there that's being, basically gluing all the strands together. All those things matter, and that's, in the end of the day, that's why you're paying a difference in price between a good quality and a bad. So just really avoid it if it's that cheap looking stuff. It's really light colored and really lightweight. You can feel it, and if it doesn't have that like sealed look to it, I would just avoid it, period. I just feel like we really rolled the dice on this and just got lucky this time. Oh. Oh. You have power at your new place?
Yeah.
You have power at your new place?
Power.
Where you moved to? You have electric?
No sir. Only inside.
Where did you move? I thought you moved up the road up here.
Because maybe next month. Maybe.
I thought you moved. So you didn't. So where you staying at now?
The other house.
So whose house you staying at now?
Toilets. Rent home.
So Francis, yeah, don't hit those bolts ever with the hammer, just with wood, so it don't damage the threads. Yeah,
Abandoned.
right here. Ready? Pull right through it, that little cheap stuff. One more now. If you do it when it's fresh right now, you'll break the crete. We'll leave them in there for a few weeks before we pull it out. That's just according to how much it's cured. You will damage the crete, and the crete's really warm going off right now. Another nice thing about that plywood against it is that it holds the moisture in. So when you just render a wall, it gets really hot and dry because it's such a Portland mix. There's so much Portland in there going off. But like this, it's holding the moisture in the concrete nice and slow, and it's able to really do its job and gain strength. This will be a very strong wall when it's done. Well, I've had my first tomato there to sprout out, but I'm seeing another right there, and I think another there. Mock and Francis got this side formed up, which went really quick because all they had to do is pull the forms from over here and shift it over to this other side. It was all the exact same setup and cut, so they just moved it over. So that was pretty easy. Joel's continuing up there doing chipping, getting all the slag off places now, so we'll be able to do a clean skim coat. And over here, they're setting up forms to pour this little beam across right here. And then we'll backfill that with sand the rest of the way. And we'll actually be able to start setting the steel over the top of this right here for where the first section of sidewalk is going to be poured. Preparing this morning to pour sidewalk. We poured that little beam across the back yesterday. They got this backfilled with sand. We're setting forms here right now down the sides. That's what he's doing right over there. They're using some real little nails that'll tap right into that cheap hollow block. And it doesn't take much for a nail to go into that. I had them go out there and get this old coconut log right here, and it's a method they do here in the Philippines. They'll take one of these big logs and they'll cut it flat on the end and make them a couple handles, and they'll use as a tamper to compact the soil down before they pour. But in that soft sand, it'll just punch holes right now. So to them get this one, it's a little smaller, cut it off here flat. She's getting the saw there to do. And then we'll take one of our drops of that mahogany, like those pieces stacked right there, and we'll nail on the bottom of it, and that way we'll have a nice big rectangular square pad on the bottom.
working there. Even though he's not feeling good, he haven't slept last night because of the pain. But even though he's not feeling good, he's still working there. Told him that he need to get some rest. I can tell that his crew that also worried with him because he kept, make a face there. Told him get some rest. Stubborn man. I understand his point that he need to move. Hope you're gonna feeling better. Get well, baby. Get well.
We're going to pour this in sections, and we're going to have an expansion joint. Not that it really needs it, but it also helps like shifting and it gets the whole thing cracking. So I'm going to then edge it and have a joint every 6 feet here, and this is what we're doing every 6 feet. That way if any of this shifts, it shouldn't crack the whole thing, Should be able to move a little bit.
Everyone, so it's time for the afternoon break. So anyway, today is I'm cooking just a very simple soup, the miswa, and I add, Filipino love this one, and I cook this one with the sardines. It's what we use always anyway. Yeah, the sardines. So you see the fish there. I make it spicy because those boys, they love spicy. And much of pandesal. I already prepare everything here, their bowl and their spoon, so it's ready and just waiting for the time that they break. James was there, always supervised with them.
Well, I've had company here and I didn't do a whole lot of videoing, plus kind of down in a little pain today, but I got busy here because I wanted to finish this concrete myself, and I did. And I'm pouring this in sections because I want that cold joint, I want that expansion joint. Now normally expansion joint, you're talking about cold weather, hot weather. You're talking about getting extreme cold, and and then you get hot summers and materials expand and contract and all. But we don't really get the expansion and contraction really here in the Philippines as much because it's just a warm weather climate. But you do get shifting and cracking, and being that this is like freshly hauled in soil and all here built up, I had a lot of rain and compaction, there's always a chance of a little shift. So what I wanted to do is pour this thing in sections, and I wanted to have complete cold joints in between. So poured this first 6 foot section right here, and then we come down here and we poured the next 6 foot section. And then because we don't want to get splatter all over these, tomorrow morning we'll come in between, lay a sheet of plywood across the end here, lay a sheet of plywood there to keep whatever we do from getting on the edge, splattering over here, anything messing up our finish. And we'll pour this center section. Now I know this is goofy, but I just had a couple scraps of steel here, and I'd rather tie them into the concrete than them be just laying around doing nothing. So I know it's a little silly, just little pieces like that, but like I say, I'd rather it be hidden away in the concrete than laying out here rusting or get sold for just a couple pesos a scrap. So if it can be put into the concrete, I'm gonna put it in there. So I finished this, and they just didn't really understand what I wanted, and I said, well, I'll do it myself. And got that knocked out, and that's a broom finish going this direction. And then work these edges right here, and I wanted to have these nice little frames and where it's divided up. So here's the next one we just finished, Cap's been here hanging out with me while I've been working on this. So first thing we did when we poured it, when it was first really wet, is I go around with that tool, that edger, and work this edge and work in all of that aggregate. You're gonna have stones in the edge and stuff, and while it's really wet, go ahead and get those worked in and buried in. And any great big ones, get them pulled out and get a little filler concrete in there. And then keep working it. And then now you know you've already got all those big stones out of your way of your radius and your edge right there. And then we went ahead floating it again, letting it set and trowel it again. And then when it was thickened on up where it's kind of getting ready to finish, then come back and you can do your final around it. So we broomed it first, broomed it, and then come back around and did the final around it. Actually went over this 3 times. Preliminary, one time before we broomed it, then broomed it, and then go around, get that edge a little wet so it'll get a little creamy. Just sprinkle a little water on it and work that. And there it is. Now after this dries, all this little loose stuff right here will just come right off. You just sweep it off of it and it'll come out really clean looking, way better than it is now after it cures and you can sweep it off. So we'll let these set. We'll pour the center section in the morning, and like I say, I got a lot of plywood laying here everywhere from this project that we can just lay on that end and protect that and keep it all clean. So now after we pour that in the morning, they're getting this end here prepped right now, coming from the bridge this way, and it's the exact same length that we just did right there. The steel's 20 foot, we're pouring 19 foot because in that 20 foot steel we can bend the end, and we made a little beam part of the way down through here, and the ends will bend off down into that beam. And we poured a little beam, kind of like a footer, right at the bridge too, that also closes that end off down there too, so that the sand don't come out of our forms here where we're building this up and go out underneath the bridge. So he already poured that. Well, it's so nice seeing these projects come together, and the sidewalk project's looking great. You can see right there what's going on, give you a little overview from above. So that's going to come out. There'll be a little slight slope off the pool deck going that way, and then we drop it just a little bit for that, and that way no water can blow back into here, but that's got a nice rise to it, and it's just gonna be great. Wait till y'all see what all we're doing here. And speaking of what all we're doing here, Miss Melinda, she has been doing postings now online for our place through Facebook and here locally and all. And she booked, I kind of helped her out with it to figure out the logistics on it and all, but she booked the entire place for a family event coming up. They booked everything. They booked all the rooms, including the cabin out there. The Bakubo, the whole property, it'd be exclusive to them for that whole package on it, and for 25 people. And they'll figure out how they're going to do their accommodations on sleeping for 25 people. If someone wants to sleep in the Bakubo, so be it. If someone want to actually sleep down in the floor of the cabin, and we've got a couple little blow-up little mats for in here for the rooms. 25 people, and they have the run of the whole property for that day. Hey everybody, if you're enjoying the content that you're watching right now, give us a thumbs up, write a comment down below, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and help us bring those numbers up. We'd really appreciate it a lot. Do us a solid and do that right there for us, and just take a minute. We would really appreciate you. Thank you very much.